in light of the current medical emergency. PSTA has developed methods to ensure the ability of public to comment prior to and during our virtual meeting. It's established these options. During the meeting, the public can provide public comments via telephone by calling 415-655-0002. The meeting ID is 160-720-2285, as you see on the screen. Individuals will be able to speak for 3 minutes during public comment period. Again, to make the public comment today, during the meeting, you can call 415-655-0002, and the meeting ID is 160-720-2285. Second options allowed for public would be to have submitted written comment prior to the meeting via snail mail to PSTA. And the third option would be to submit comments via email to publiccomments@PSTA, again, as it shows on the screen. If you email a comment before or during the meeting and it's 400 words or less, so if it's short, we'll read them aloud during the public comments or at the appropriate time. Public comments that are longer than that, if you get winded, 400 words or longer, will be provided to board meeting in writing before the meeting. We didn't get any, so I assume no one did that. Any documents the public provided to the clerk have already been provided to us prior to the meeting. All comments submitted will be included as part of the public record for this meeting and will be considered by the committee prior to any actions we take. When addressing the committee, please state first your name and address. Okay, and I think at this point I ask, no, next we take our roll. Thank you. So here we go. If everybody will unmute, we'll do this real quick. I'll just call your name, and if you say here, we'll make sure that you can talk. So if we have any votes or comments, we're just going to do this real quick. I'm here, and everyone can hear me, obviously. Duncan from North County. Chelsea, where's my co-chair?
I am here.
Great. Roman? I'm here. Deborah? Can we hear you, Deborah? Orquist? I see your square. Can we hear you? I'll come back to you, Deborah. Gloria?
I'm here.
Hi, Gloria. Jason?
I'm here.
Great. Mark O'Hara? Come on.
I'm
Mark.
here.
Stay here. Thank you. Max from South County?
Hello.
Sebastian? Where's
Here.
Thank you. Edwin?
Here.
Great. Mary Young, did Mary Young show up?
Here.
Hi, Mary. Welcome. Mike Davenport?
Here.
Mark Boyce?
Yes, sir.
And Kim Rankin.
I'm here.
Welcome. One more time. Who did I miss? Who wasn't?
Deborah.
Deborah. Are you here? I see you dialed in. We just, maybe you can't hear us or we can't hear you. Deborah, if you get a chance, unmute and shout here, just interrupt us. Anytime. Let me close this out. Thank you. And let me continue. And let me thank Mary Ann for the great script and all the help. Next is, of course, public comments. Are there any members of the public on the phone? Did we get any emails or snail mails? Who helps me with that?
Marissa, can you state?
There are no public comments.
Okay, so thank you very much. Always, anytime we meet like this, the public is welcome to send us their comments. I guess I'll just remind us on the fly, although it's not in my script, that we are meeting virtually, and that's why we cannot have any votes for approvals when we get together, so we're not approving minutes, and we are sending the board a consensus if we see something, but we are not having a formal vote until we get together in person, which we're going to discuss today, actually. I guess when we get together, my joke has been we'll have about 13 minutes to catch up on and approve all of them, but let's go on. The first thing we do, of course, is the chair report, which is my telling you guys about the board meeting April 28th. We met on the 20th April 20th. 1 week later was the board. Brad, I'd like to thank you for covering for me. I had technical problems. My signal cut out again.
That has never happened to anybody else.
I know, it's been crazy. I fixed this here. I've now got an upgraded LAN. Everything's been working great. Don't jinx it.
Excellent.
What the board talked about, and Brad, if you want to interrupt and give us any more information, they talked about the 10-year agreement with the Jolly Trolley, which we heard all about. Also, the approving unanimously the R&D for the waterborne transit, which I thought we also got a presentation on. I can't remember. And then the two soft presentations, the support for Earth Day and the diversity and inclusion initiatives, which were both informative. Now, remind everybody that the board meetings are on YouTube. So if you want to see last month's from April 20th, you can go out and dial in and look at it. And of course, next month's just as well. So that's that. That's my chair's report. Then I will turn to Gloria and ask you to do 2 reports for us. The one that we always ask for the CAC. And then if you could do this morning, you and I both attend the local coordinating board.
That's so
Yeah.
funny, because I actually had written my notes. I said, I actually have 2 meetings that I want to report on.
Thank you.
That are just, and again, it's really, I think it's good to remember, as you know, the TRAC committee it's really nice to know what things Forward Pinellas is doing, because it works so well in tandem with the things that we are looking for. And the first meeting I was going to report on was just the regular Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, which was actually held in May. And we had a number of issues we covered, but the 2 that I thought were the most interesting is, first, they reported on the Gandy project development and environmental study. And the notes that they have is, first of all, this is about Gandy Boulevard from 4th Street North in Pinellas County to Southwest Shore Boulevard in Hillsborough County. So it's obviously quite a stretch of roadway. And it says the Gandy Boulevard PD&E study will evaluate roadway capacity improvements and the addition of bicycle and pedestrian facilities within the study limits. Bridge widening or replacements anticipated, and a grade separating overpass at Brighton Bay Boulevard is also being evaluated. So for those of you particularly who are in the southern part of the county or south central, it's just interesting information, and everything's available through Forward Pinellas, but that was one of the things they talked about. And then the other thing that I thought was very interesting, and I think this ties with some of what you may have been talking about. I don't know if it ties with it, but it's they were talking about the equity assessment and demographic survey. Is that the same thing as what you were just mentioning, Duncan, about the equity inclusion or diversity and inclusion, or is that different? Okay, I don't know. But anyway, the equity project.
This is only for PSTA. This is.
Oh, okay.
Right.
This is Forward Pinellas.
Right.
And what they say about that is that they are conducting an equity assessment of its agency operations and planning activities. And this includes, they have an actual survey for the public. And again, if you go on the Forward Pinellas site, they talk about the Forward Pinellas the equity assessment to seek social justice. And they have the survey there. I will get the link to Mary Ann so that she can send it to all of you, because the survey is open until the 30th of this month. And so I recommend you go and try to fill it in. I did, and I noticed there were several opportunities for me to talk about, they said, what's important to you? And I said, good transit. Absolutely. So then the more that we register that with them. And I also added my thing that I always preach, and that's we are pedestrians when we're not on the bus. And so about having safe access to all the buildings in the county for those of us who have gotten off a bus and need to go in there. So so that was the interesting things that I thought from the CAC. And our next one will be next week. So, and then the meeting this morning is something, the LCB, which I think of as Liquor Control Board, but it's actually the local coordinating board. And this deals with all of the TD, transportation disadvantaged programs. And, that includes DART, which those of us who, need to have that, as well as things like the late shift programs and so forth. It's really designed to help people who have financial disadvantages or physical disadvantages and so on. And again, the meeting this morning, they talked about a number of different programs, including the things we're going to hear today about the changes to the paratransit system. But again, they updated us also from TBARTA about the TD Tampa Bay update. I love TD Tampa Bay because that is precisely what we've been begging for, to have regional paratransit. And so, again, if anyone is signed up for DART, this is definitely something worth investigating. I'm planning to try it out, to go to Pasco, Hillsborough, and to Manatee, all of which I have friends that I want to visit, and that program will allow it. So those were interesting things today. So that's it. And if you have any questions, of course, you can check with me or with Duncan, because we're both on both of these two committees.
Yeah, and I apologize for missing this morning. I hold the over 60 seat as the disadvantage, and Gloria, you hold the transit disadvantage seat. There's about 20 people. We're meeting in Zoom. The CAC is starting to meet in person, although with a quorum in person and the rest through Zoom. Again, we'll talk about what we're going to do. I want to add that thing with the Gandhi. I am so cynical. I do love TBARTA, just like you're saying with the countywide or the multi-county paratransit. FDOT, I'm a member of Sunshine Citizen out of Hillsborough. I'm so cynical about that. They're really talking about redoing the Gandhi, just like the Franklin, running a third bridge, then tearing down the oldest and moving everybody over one. So keeping the new, right now we have an old and a new, and we're going to go to the new and a newer. And what this whole study was about is putting bikes and solar and giving everybody free soda pop or whatever it is on that newest bridge. But what I can't help but feel, because it's FDOT, is at the last minute after we're all signed up is, whoops, those last two lanes are going to become toll lanes, or what everyone calls Lexus lanes, rather than transit lanes. Nobody has said that, except my experience with FDOT. Is that always happens, that, if we say it in the beginning, you'll oppose it. So we're going to wait until all the cement is poured. So if I had seen that there was only 6 extra feet, I'd say, oh, those are going to be bike lanes. But geez, why do you have 28 feet extra for that stuff? Anyway, I'm just being cynical. I have no extra knowledge, but I'm telling you, the people in Hillsborough, Sunshine Citizen, I'm now starting to get their senses. But that's enough of me.
I think that's why it's important that we all stay involved, because if
Yeah.
having involved make a difference, if not.
And again, they're so early in the study. I just wish that there was no way for them to, some way for us to stop that from even being a possibility. I don't know how. With FDOT, I don't know how. I mean, how do you stop them? Okay. And thank you for advocating for that stuff, Gloria. That's really great. We should all be advocating TBARTA for multi-county paratransit.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's that then. Let's move on to the agenda. Thank you so much for those reports. Then our first item is about the fair equity. Cassandra, you have something for us. Thank you.
Speaking of transportation disadvantage.
Yes. Brad, did you want to say anything before we get started? I'm fine if you don't, but go ahead.
Oh, no, thank you. Chair Kovar and Gloria, that was great. And speaking of transportation disadvantaged, maybe some of you might have seen some articles, who could remember articles BC before coronavirus, but right before the pandemic was hitting, there was a number of big announcements from Kansas City, Los Angeles, other cities. They were looking at ways in which they might maybe have their transit systems be without fares. Maybe more and more cities, bigger cities, were looking at this idea that, hey, well, maybe if you're looking at transit as a part of your mobility of your community, maybe fares don't make as much sense. So we started looking at that ourselves, and we had an advantage because we've gone a year without any fares. Now, not to give you a newsflash disappointment, we don't have the money to actually be able to get rid of fares at the moment, but Cassandra and her team have done a fantastic job researching those two cities and have some recommendations that I think are really important, especially when you look at it through the equity lens of providing the best service we can to everybody in our community. So I'm very excited about this, and I'm excited And I want to thank Cassandra and her team for doing it. So take it away, Cassandra.
So I do have with me on today's presentation, Heather Sobush, who's our Director of Planning, and Nicole Dufa, who is a project planner in the Planning Department. And for those of you who are new to TRAC, welcome. I'm Cassandra Borchers. I'm the Chief Development Officer. Julie, you want to go to the next slide for me? I don't have to tell this group how critical public transportation is, right? I mean, it is an essential service to get people to where they need to go, the important things that they need to do, whether that's medical trips or school or work, or even just shopping for food and medicine and things like that. But there's a bigger part that public transportation plays in the benefits to our community and community building. It certainly helps stimulate the local economy, does give people that access to employment opportunities, but also has a really important effect on home values and property values, and the access points that we have to public transportation improves the corridors that we run in. And I know we don't have to preach to this choir about how we combat climate change. And even the simple act of getting on the bus, regardless of what the bus is using, is helping the environment as opposed to getting in your own car. And so there's the part that is the service, right, that is important. But next slide, please. There's also the infrastructure itself, where we are building communities, we are looking at the land use. As I mentioned earlier, Mark attended our Sunrunner Rising development study public information meeting this morning. And that is critical to looking at our community in a different way. And we are part of a greater transportation network that gets people to where they want to go, but we're doing it with less congestion and by providing an increased capacity to the network without taking up more space. And that is really important. Next slide, please. There was no greater example of how essential we were than during COVID. In the past year, we got more calls about maintaining our vital service to essential workers. We created new programs to make sure that people could get to where they needed to go, even though we were doing things that were the right thing to do for the CDC. It meant lowering our service levels in order to keep people safe. And in addition to that, when we wanted to think about how we were keeping people safe, having our operators be safe and our riders be safe, we said, let's make this free, ask people to board at the rear entrance, and we will do a better job for our community. And during this time, we have also adopted a sustainable strategic plan that really thinks about our future in 3 ways. Our social sustainability, how are we supporting the community? Our economic sustainability, how do we continue to provide this service in a cost-effective manner? And the environmental sustainability, and that's quite the obvious one. But we're doing this in the context of a national conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And now that we have been fareless, because it's not free to provide public transportation, but it is a great community service. But how are we going to take that vision of equity and do we have the opportunity to continue being without fares? And how does that affect our ability to provide the service? And also, does that achieve our goals of equity? So I'm going to turn it over to Nicole to talk about some of the case studies that Brad mentioned and what we found that they're doing, the alternatives that they're looking at, and also the results of some of their work. Next slide, please. And Nicole.
Hello, TRAC, Chair Kovar. It's nice to be here again. It's been a while since I've been at TRAC, and I miss seeing all of your faces. So thanks for having us here today. And yes, so as both Brad and Cassandra mentioned, the 2 major examples of transit agencies that have had some press most recently are Los Angeles and LA Metro, as well as Kansas City and the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority. So we looked at both of these 2 examples of agencies looking at removing and eliminating their fares as they're especially using the pandemic as a catalyst. So last year, actually during the pandemic, Los Angeles asked themselves if they could remove fares and announced a fareless system initiative. The CEO of LA Metro announced this initiative and a task force with the initial goal and catalyst really focused on both a moral obligation to their communities as a result of the pandemic and as a economic boost as we come out of the pandemic. The agency was really concerned about the cost burden of transportation on their riders, especially when a majority of their riders are Black and Latino, and both of those groups being really higher risk of contracting COVID-19 and also still being essential workers in their community using transportation to get to and from work. And these essential workers represented LA Metro's most consistent riders. They, as an agency, explored 6 different scenarios for this pilot initiative that they are hoping to launch. And some of the pilot scenarios included fully fareless system across the board, focusing on peak versus non-peak service or rail versus bus fareless service. And then the example that is the scenario that has gained the most traction and that is going to the board in LA Metro's board next month, or actually this month, is the low income and K through 12 students. So they really wanted to focus on the highest need of their riders to test this pilot. And when evaluating their rider data, they actually realized that over 70% of their riders meet a low income threshold that they've established. And if they explored ways to assist those families in either reduced or removed that fare, they could help those families with using costs that they would normally spend on transportation towards other important household budget items. One of the biggest challenges facing LA Metro is offsetting the loss of fare box revenue. Their fare box recovery, while only 16% of their budget, the agency was already facing a reduction in revenue if they went fully fareless. And so they would need to consider reducing their service if they actually cut all of the fares out. And so in order to fund the fareless program without affecting service levels, they will need more money and support from local and state government that is actually yet to be confirmed. And if approved, the pilot will be an 18-month test run experiment where they're going to see how that plays out, especially in terms of their funding. Now, on the other hand, and similarly, Kansas City, they have been evaluating the impact of a zero fare system for the last several years and talking about it, but really it began in 2020, last year, with a proclamation from the mayor about the need for eliminating transit fares as a way to impact the household budget of families in the city that are most in need. And prior to making this announcement, they were already making some incremental steps towards going zero fare, where they were providing free rides for veterans and free rides for high school students, but they really wanted to take it to the next level. And with the mayor's proclamation, actually, the transit authority or the transportation authority serves 5 jurisdictions, but the mayor was really making the proclamation for the city of Kansas City only, which is just one of those jurisdictions. So there are some limits to how Kansas City is considering a zero fare program. And with the mayor's proclamation actually came a promise of funding from the city budget, because the city realized that in order to make this a reality, they needed to put some money where their mouth was. They worked to create a partnership with Blue Cross Blue Shield that would also add some money to this program. But as 2020 happened, as the pandemic started, the Kansas City went fare free, went zero fare anyway, just like many of us did, as a way to keep their operators and riders safe and preventing contact at the fare box. However, things are still the same. They are still zero fare, but the money has yet to materialize. The city has not contributed the funding from their budget, nor has the money from the private partnership come through. And we are unsure of the status of Kansas City's zero fare program will be, considering some deficits in the city budget as a result of the pandemic. So that's just a little bit about the case studies. There's still some traction and they're still moving forward, but we have yet to see what it'll actually look like. Next slide, please. And with both of these two systems, the way they really started was looking at the gaps of their service in meeting the needs of their communities. And they concluded that eliminating fare collection could improve equity in their system. When we look at our gaps, it's important to first look at what reduced fares we do currently offer. And as you can see, we do have a limited number of reduced fare options. We actually have a free fare program where some of you may know, I mean, you are members of the TRAC actually, so you do get to ride PSTA for free. We also allow our employees to ride for free, children under 5. And so we do have some free routes as well, our Looper, for example. But really the highlight of our reduced fare program is our TD program. As we mentioned earlier, that's how many people are able to get around, is through our extremely reduced cost bus pass of $11 a month. The program does require an application process with income verification. So we make sure that you meet a certain income threshold. And riders eligible for this program must meet 150% of the federal poverty level. But when you put that to dollars, those riders are making less than $10 an hour in order to qualify for our $11 a month bus pass. That's a single individual, excuse me. We receive some limited reimbursement from state grants to pay for this program through the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged, but most of the burden is on PSTA in order to fund this program. To open up this program to increased income levels could be an option and a step towards equity, which helps reduce the cost of transportation for riders that are already cash strapped, maybe making, just over that $10 an hour, and so still really could use the help in their budget. And in fact, actually, according to a Transportation Research Board study, out of the 30 largest transit agencies, only 16 of them offer an income-based reduced fare program. So PSTA is really already a step ahead in what we're offering our community. And additionally, per the federal government, all transit agencies are required to have a half-price reduced fare program available for students under 18, people with disabilities, seniors over 65. So we do offer that reduced fare at $35 compared to our regular $70 a month fare. And so when looking at our rider and larger community demographics and our rider and who's riding our bus, we know that there are more people eligible for our TD program than is currently enrolled. And actually, I'm going to pass it over to Heather to talk more about our riders and some cost analysis that we've done. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Nicole. Okay, so looking a little bit deeper into the people we serve, one of the questions we asked ourselves is whether these programs that Nicole was just describing sufficiently support our rider base. And so the majority of our riders have a household income below $25,000, but in the majority also work. We also know that a small portion, Nicole was just mentioning this, of people who are eligible for the $11 bus pass actually apply. So we're evaluating why that might be and if we can make it easier. In addition, eligibility for this program is limited to people whose income is less than 150% of federal poverty level, which leaves out many minimum wage workers. Next slide, please. When talking about livability within our communities, we often look at housing and transportation affordability because they are the two biggest expenses. The United Way has developed a survival budget specific for Florida and our counties that takes into account basic needs and basically has identified that to cover all of the basic needs, someone would need to make at least $13.75 per hour here in Pinellas, which is obviously higher than the minimum wage and even the minimum wage that'll be increased soon. When housing, which is very expensive here in Pinellas, combined with transportation exceeds a family's budget, they make trade-offs, and they make trade-offs with things like quality of childcare, healthy foods, and technology. People falling below that minimum wage or that needed wage threshold work in the service industry, childcare centers, grocery stores, and home health care, among many other places. If we reduce transportation costs in an even more meaningful way than we already do, it might help with other areas of their budget. Next slide, please. So when we looked at whether going completely fareless really solves the host of issues for our riders, we also looked at some of the trade-offs. And a major trade-off of going fare-free, as they saw in LA, is that it would likely result in service cuts, which is exactly the opposite of what our riders regularly tell us they want, which is better service. So as such, it's important for us to balance increased equity and a goal of equity with potential consequences of going fareless, including grant eligibility, data loss, community funding partnerships, and service reductions. I'm going to pass it back to Cassandra to wrap up. Thank you.
I was so mesmerized by what Nicole and Heather had said that I almost forgot to put myself off mute. But you can tell we've been really passionate about this, really taking a deep dive on how do we become more equitable and ensure that we're providing the service that is needed by the community and doing what the community values in the services that we provide that supports, but also support those people who are most marginalized. Next slide, please. We have 3 proposals to move forward, and they're on the next slide, starting. And first is to go ahead and launch Flamingo. So as we start to get back to regular service, creating that opportunity for people to get the best value out of the fare capping program that is Flamingo, so that the more you ride, the less you pay overall, right? And it really stretches people's dollars who may not have been able to originally purchase a $70 monthly bus pass. Next slide, please. The next step is to improve that access to the programs that we already have. That $11 bus pass, again, down from $70, is really important to the people who are able to qualify for that. But maybe there's some ways that we can reduce the barriers to entry on that program, but also work with Forward Pinellas and the local coordinating board to see if there's some movement in that percentage of the federal poverty level, and where does that line make sense? Next slide, please. And lastly, and probably the most important for community building, is to look at how we could expand our income-based reduced fare programs that complements what the county is already doing when it comes to affordable housing. So Heather has talked about that housing and transportation nexus, and the amount of money that households spend on those 2 things take away from the opportunity for them to spend that money on either better housing or food or medicine or quality childcare or any of the other things that people need in order to live. And so we'll be taking these items one by one as action items to the board. Today, for you, it is an information item, but for tomorrow, for the planning committee and the board this month, it's also an information item. In June, we will take the first step to our first recommendation, and we will bring a new fare policy to the board for Flamingo, and then start Flamingo at the very beginning of July. And we're very excited to do that. I'm looking forward to your questions and your comments and your suggestions as we start to take a deeper dive on how we can become more equitable.
Okay. Wow. That is great. That's very important, the stuff you're addressing, and it sounds like you're on the right track. I'm not. Let's open it up to questions from other members of the TRAC committee. Let's. How I can see anyone want to raise their hand or click in. Gloria, please.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. Thank you for doing that, and I love the fact that they're comparing it to other cities as well. The one thought I had when I was watching this was clearly there are households that need the support, and then there are other people who are riders who don't need the financial support. And I have no idea, but if there's a way of measuring, sometimes if something's too cheap, people don't value it. And the idea of still collecting some fares from some individuals and like you say, the passes that make it invisible that people are getting the free lunches, so to speak, and the rest of us still, we still have some skin in the game, so to say. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah, it's the game theory. However, once fares are free, it creates the jump on, jump off, like the one downtown. Tourists don't have to think, do I have my quarter? Do I have my dime? Do I have my pass? You can just jump on and jump off, like the little train at the zoo. It doesn't matter. You're really selling them location rather than the act of transit. The other issue that, go ahead.
I'm sorry, if they think they've paid through their taxes, then they still do have skin.
Yeah. The other thing I always think about is the airlines and the free seats. If the folks buying these reduced fares or free fare, I mean, there's nothing stopping Flamingo to going and not telling the guy in the seat next to you that my Flamingo's free and yours is full fare and the other guy's $11. But the secret was always, how do I charge the business guy $1,000 to fly to Seattle and the family of four $200? Because I don't want to send that seat empty, so some are $500, some are $300, some are $99. So the seats don't fly empty. And oh my God, there are entire, PhD courses written on that game theory. So no seat ever goes empty. Yet the business guy spending $1,200 is somehow tricked into not spending the $99. And the buses do run around empty. I mean, obviously 19 and 60 and all of them right at rush hour and the like don't. But how do you do that? And I don't know. That's for someone smarter than someone at a higher pay grade than me. Let me turn it over to someone else. Jason.
Yes, I'm glad that this is happening. I would say I don't worry about buses being that empty because buses shouldn't be operated as a business. This is a public service to people who need it. And I don't know, it's greener anyways, no matter what. But I'm really glad that's happening, that we could actually expand it so people and advertise it so people know that there's an option for them. But yeah.
Yeah. It's really true. And I am still livid about the term essential workers. How are these guys so essential, yet we're forcing them to work and they're not getting paid enough to live? How is it that the unessential workers are making, millions of dollars in stock options, but the essential workers are having to eat birdseed and, carry their kids on their hips? Welcome to America, but at least we're giving them the ability to move around town without cars. Although the unessential folks are driving Lexuses on freeway lanes. Who else? I'm sorry, I started again. Brad.
Oh, well, I was just gonna, your comment is interesting. The term that I don't really like, I'll just say, I don't know why they call it transportation disadvantaged. That's the state agency and that's what they call it, but we can come up with a better name for it, I think. And then since both Gloria and you serve on the local aid coordinating board, Cassandra's number 2 action item will take your help.
Are there other questions or comments for Cassandra? This sounds like it's a great program. What's the estimate? This is going to run a couple of years to get through each of these. These are big.
I really hope not. Yeah, these are big things, but I really hope it doesn't take quite that long. I mean, we're going to get started on it right away. And we'd like to have something done sooner rather than later. Certainly launching Flamingo is our number 1 priority right now. We really think that will be a big lift to people who are unable to lay down $70 a month, right, at the very beginning of the month. And they'll be able to put down what they can every day or every week until they hit that $70. The way it is right now, those people are laying down $5 a day or $25 a week for a 7-day pass, and they're ending up spending $100. And now we're going to cap them at 70. So even that is a really good start to making sure that the people who need us the most, the people who ride us the most, are getting the most value out of what we're doing.
Exactly. And that's one of those taxes of being poor, that to be poor, you end up paying more. I don't go to the
Exactly.
dentist, so I end up with more fillings and all of that. So by
Right, so we're gonna
finally, we've
remove
got-
that, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna remove that tax of not being able to afford things at the beginning of the month.
Exactly. And I've been loving Flamingo when we first announced it. It was a shame COVID interrupted it, specifically because once we have it, it's such a multi-purpose tool. I mean, we're not even sure how much good it's going to do, but it'll be very apparent a year from now or 10 years from now. We have some new policy we need to address. Had it been available for COVID, or had it been some new thing,
Right.
let's apply it to Flamingo is going to apply to it. It's going to be the most Swiss Army knife with uses we don't even know about yet.
So we'll bring back the fair policy to you next month.
Great.
Since you're still going to be meeting virtually, it will not be an action item, but it will be an action item for the board next month. And so we're excited to really get started on that. So I don't want to take up any more time because I know Bonnie's got the whole enchilada for you.
Okay. What shall we do then? Is that any other questions or comments? I don't see anyone else unmuted.
I have a question.
Oh, please, Sebastian.
Okay. Are we still going to have cash fare box collection on the buses?
Yes.
Okay. There was some talk about a Metro card, and I don't see it working on a beach trolley.
Well, we will also have a mobile app, and so we'll have some signage up for tourists to
When
use
these
the
people
mobile app instead of.
when they get on the bus with their 4 kids, all they're looking for is a $20 bill.
But you know what? We're also looking at a mobile app and a group pass, which will accommodate families. And so we'll talk about that next month when we talk about the fare policy. But you're right on target where we are.
Okay, great. Thank you.
As a traveler, that had been a problem. In places like Washington, every station has those fare cards. But in other cities, you land at the airport, you can't get a card till you get downtown. You have to buy a one-time fare and all of that. It's crazy. So being able to do a phone app, everybody uses phone apps these days. So it's perfect. It's perfect. Like I said, Swiss Army knife. Any other comments? I don't see anyone unmuted.
I just want to say a quick thanks to everyone who's commented, to the TRAC for being supportive of this initiative, and your comments, and especially Jason's reminder that transit is a public service. And while being efficient is important, like, we are here to serve the people who need us, especially as we've seen during the pandemic. So thank you all for allowing us this space and encouraging us to continue this conversation.
Yeah, it's a shame that it's been paid, free fares have been paid by reduced service rather than, public institutions bellying up more cash. I don't know how to get to do that. I just don't know how to do that. Here we sit. So, anyway, can we have a consensus that this is great? Since we can't have a vote, I don't know, is that as members of TRAC, we all agree that this is great, and carry on with this great initiative.
Thank
And
you
as
so
soon
much.
as we can vote in person, we'll do it as a vote. There you are.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank Heather and Nicole. They've really spearheaded this and
Exactly.
done a really excellent job of putting together the research.
Okay. Then thank you very much. And then let's move on then to the next item with the paratransit. And Bonnie Epstein, where are you? I lost you. Okay.
Oh, I'm here. Can
There
you
you
guys
are.
hear me?
Oh, yep.
Awesome. Okay. Well, good afternoon, TRAC members. I'm Bonnie Epstein. I'm the Director of Mobility at PSTA. And today I'll be going over some of the upcoming changes to PSTA's access and ADA paratransit programs. So as you know, in the summer of 2020, PSTA redid our ADA paratransit eligibility process for new applicants. It includes, we now have a new paper application, as well as a mobility consultation that's right now held over the phone. Moving ahead, in the fall of 2020, we began the procurement process for new ADA paratransit operators, since our contract with CareRide will be ending on July 1st of 2021 this year. In February 2021, we awarded new contracts to Bay Area Metro, United Taxi, and First Transit. And these, so they'll be our new contractors for the ADA, Access ADA paratransit service, as CARED's contract is ending on July 1st. So these contractors will be phased in throughout the month of June and fully take over operating the Access paratransit service on July 1st of this year. We're really excited about bringing on these contractors. I think it's going to be a really great change for the paratransit program here at PSTA. I think it's going to be really positive for the community and the riders. The majority of the care ride drivers are going to be moving over to these new contractors. So although the vehicles will look different, the caring drivers that riders are used to are going to be the same. First Transit, Bay Area Metro, they've been holding hiring events and hiring a lot of the drivers. A lot of the staff is moving over to First Transit in the administrative positions. We've hired call takers at our call center from CareRide. So a lot of the friendly faces and voices that everyone is used to will just continue with our new contractors. The PSTA mobility team has been meeting with CareRide, First Transit, and Bay Area Metro to ensure a smooth transition between the contractors. We meet every week. We're doing whatever we can to make sure that this transition goes as smoothly as possible. Next slide, please. So a couple things the riders need to know. Riders do need to know that they should begin using the new PSTA phone number for all Access paratransit related calls. So booking reservations, canceling reservations, the Where's My Ride calls should all be made through the new phone number. So that number is 727-540-1888. Again, use that phone number, save that in your phone, tell everybody about it. It is the new phone number to call for all access and MOD related questions and booking of trips. Like I said, booking trips, canceling trips, where's my ride questions can go through that new phone number. So this phone number is ready to be used now, today, anytime. It's set up so that we're able to transfer it between CareRide and the PSTA call center, when we're ready to do that. So you can just start using this phone number today. It'll transfer you, to the correct person to book your trip or cancel your trip, find out where your ride is. So again, use that phone number, 727-540-1888 today. Tell everybody about it. That's the new phone number to be used. Another important change to mention is that the fares are returning, like we were just talking about, to all PSTA services, including Access Paratransit and Mobility on Demand on July 5th of this year. So the fare for Access ADA Paratransit is $4.50 per trip. That's the same as it was pre-COVID. The Mobility on Demand fare is going to be $3.50 per trip. So that is a dollar less than it was pre-COVID. It's a dollar less than the Access Paratransit fare. So if riders have old DART tickets, they can still use those on the Access Paratransit service with the new contractors, and they can still use the tickets. They can order more tickets in the usual way or pay with cash on those Access Paratransit contractors on that service. Next slide, please. So the last thing that I'll talk about is how we're letting riders know about these changes. We've developed a little palm card. You can see it here on this slide, describing these changes. Again, the main ones, the fares returning, our new contractors, and the big one is the new phone number. This palm card has been printed out and will be distributed to riders when they take their Access Paratransit trips by their CareRide drivers beginning tomorrow morning. So beginning tomorrow morning, everyone that has a trip, they get in the car, they'll be handed this palm card. As you know, the drivers will be there to answer questions, CareRide staff, PSTA staff, but those cards will start to go out tomorrow morning. We'll also be recording a robocall describing these changes, and we'll be sending out that robocall to all the phone numbers that we have on file a little bit later this week, and we'll resend that robocall out next week. So that'll go out at least twice so that anybody that misses it the first time, get it a second time. It'll go onto your voicemail if you have that set up, so you can listen to the message describing those changes. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Gloria, if you'll unmute. Unmute. There you go.
Yeah, first of all, I am so excited about this. I can't wait. I just put the new number into my phone, and so I can't wait to see how it goes. We must have done the analysis on that the electronic system. You must have chosen a vendor to make, how we went through the whole process of choosing who was going to deliver the service. You also did one in terms of the electronic system, right?
Yeah, so one thing I didn't mention in this brief update was our paratransit software that we're currently we're bringing that to the finance committee and board this month. That will be more on the back end, but we will have hopefully in the future a setup where riders can pay for their access paratransit trips, not just with tickets and cash, but with credit cards or like an e-wallet. Lots of good things hopefully will come for the riders for both access paratransit and mobility on demand with that new software. But it'll just take a little bit of time to set all that up.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, a couple more things. When we call into this new number, I know Ross was explaining this morning at the other meeting
LCB.
that we will be calling in. One will be this, two will be that, three will be that. And what I asked for, and he said, worthy of consideration too, is I'd like there to be one of the buttons have a connection to the TD Tampa Bay, so that in addition to what we're doing here in our county, that we can add that multi-county function as well for paratransit, because that otherwise people don't know sort of how to use that service. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's something that we can try to so have an option for that and maybe forward that over so you can make those reservations as well. Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
With one of those messages, you are now leaving PSTA. You will be forwarded to the T-BARTA inter-county paratransit system. Thank you for using PSTA. That would be really sharp to save the person from having to know two numbers, and for that matter, having to think, where am I going? Boy,
exactly. Oh, I'm crossing.
That's really, that'd be really cool.
And then the third thing I have is, this is such an exciting time that I'm wondering what kind of promotional things you'll have in terms of, like, I know I live at a condo complex, and several of the buildings are 55 plus. I'm constantly educating people about using the DART program. I would love to have you all come in and present this whole great new system and really, crow about what a great job you're doing, because you are doing a great job. And I'd like you to really take a victory lap for people to say, this is something that Pinellas County has that lots of other places don't, and we need to really support this. So.
Yeah, I think we're really looking forward to doing more outreach like we used to do as we come out of pandemic, and they're more in person is more acceptable. But yeah, I think that's something that we've liked to do in the past and really want to do more of in the future.
Well, I will be contacting you to get you set up here at my complex, and I'd be willing to help with some of those things too as a rider.
Yeah, sure. You've got my phone number and email, so all good.
Thank you, Bonnie. Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sounds like a great program coming. What logo will be on it? Will these be PSTA logos on them? Is that or?
Yeah, so we have a PSTA Access logo. It's on the Palm card. So that will be on all, and it says this on the Palm card that's what you look for on the vehicles. Yeah, there it is. So you look for that logo on the vehicles when you're taking the trips. So that'll be at least somewhere on the vehicle, and many of the drivers will have that as like a patch on their uniform as well. So
the fact that you're using a single phone number and now a single logo on the vehicles makes it.
Or look at my background.
Yeah. Look at
Oh,
that.
Look at that.
There you go. There you go. All right, good. I like it.
Yeah. Chair Kovar, every time anyone on track says the words DART or Care Ride, they get fined 50 cents.
I like it. I'll start the jar. I'll start.
Bonnie's gonna take it out of your virtual wallet.
I like it.
Oh,
Oh my
geez.
gosh.
Make me add it to my Flamingo fare. Another piece of the Swiss Army knife. Any other questions for Bonnie?
I always have a question.
Please.
Duncan, can you hear me?
Sebastian?
Yeah, I always have a question.
No, that's great.
Bonnie, you're doing a fabulous job. And I have a mobility issue. So I utilize Direct Connect and Mobility on Demand.
Awesome.
Are you aware that there is a problem with Uber and Lyft?
So when you say problem, maybe tell me more about that.
Okay, and you need to talk to your telephone reps because they will verify you, okay? Uber
Yeah.
and Lyft are private contractors. They're different than United Taxi. And so what they will do is they will pick up a ride and halfway to you, somebody will come on and want a trip to the airport. They will cancel you. And let me tell you what they did to me personally. I don't know what they're doing to you, okay? This involves you. But Uber charges me a cancellation fee. And in that cancellation fee, it doesn't go directly to my bank account, again, on my credit card. I have to dispute this. And what they will do is they will put it in what they call Uber Cash. I've talked to a couple of your reps because I utilize your service because I have a mobility problem. Okay. And they told me they are aware. I don't know whether you have a contract with them and they're charging you a cancellation fee unaware to you. That's my main concern. Are you getting a cancellation fee charged against your account?
Well, so that's dependent on the program. I think there's something we can do about the problems that you're having. Maybe we can connect. I can reach out to you after this meeting and see, what the issue is, which program you're having the issue on, and I think we can
Uber
make
and
some progress.
Sebastian, that sounds devious, and you can't be the only one having it. Having a driver on his way.
You're not the only one.
I got a better offer. I'll stand you up, but if that sounds.
Well, the problem is,
I get it.
when I'm bringing it up, is the cancellation fee. I don't know what kind of a contract PSTA has.
I get it.
Whether they are nailing you, I'm going to use the word nailing, for a cancellation fee without you knowing about it. Now, I spoke to your telephone reps about it. I'm not the only guy there's a problem with, okay? So specify United Taxi, and they are solid gold.
I think that is why you sit on this committee, is to bring that kind of stuff up. All of us have anecdotal experiences which folks like Bonnie just don't know about. And that's why we're here, man. This is really great.
I think definitely let's talk after this. I think that the issue you're having is on Direct Connect, and I think there are some things we can do.
I'll tell you.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that is exactly why we have this committee. Each of us have different experiences. I'll tell you mine during the end at the end. Excellent. Any other questions for Bonnie? And thank you for this great presentation and where we're going with it. Sounds like a great solution. And shouldn't we be thanking Gloria and Kim for sitting in some of the early days of this?
Oh, yeah, they helped a lot with getting our paratransit operator chosen and set up. So, thank you, Gloria and Kim, for all your help with that.
Again, the purpose for this committee is to sort of find folks of the different cookie cutter users. So glad to help.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Bonnie. If there's no other questions, then I'm going to turn it over to Bob. You've got a non-PowerPoint presentation for us about meetings.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I have everybody's favorite presentation, that being the last presentation of the day. And it's pretty short.
Okay. Another favorite.
That's right. We've got a lot of new members on the track for those of you who weren't here, back in April 2020, we moved to this format. We moved to an online format. State law actually regulates that we have to have a quorum in person to vote on action items. So that's why we've been doing information items for a little more than a year now. And thanks to Mary Ann, she sent out a survey and heard from most of you. And we've got a quorum, at least 11 are very comfortable, and a few others coming back in to meet in person. So what we're going to propose is to have our first on-site TRAC meeting August 17th in August. Now, some of you may wonder why we don't want to do it in July. Well, the staff is going back on July 12th. So we want a little extra time so we can set this up the way we need to, and also to create the same option that Duncan, you mentioned earlier about letting people also participate virtually, which is something we really hope we can do moving forward, period, because as you know, we like to have a geographically diverse crew, but it's hard to get someone on track from Tarpon Springs if they've got to take the 19 all the way down, transfer to the 52, and then back again. That's a long stretch. So that's what we're looking forward to doing going forward, to be able to get at least a quorum as long as the state requires it, and then let others go in virtually on August 17th. And I will say, I heard something that encouraged me at a meeting a few weeks ago. T-BARTA is now starting to push the state legislators to change that rule. And if you're familiar with T-BARTA, every time they have meetings that people have to come to a quorum, they're coming from all over the region. I mean, some of them driving an hour, hour and a half each way, it's a lot easier for them if they can do this. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it'll be a lot easier in the future. But that's where we're going right now. And a staff recommendation is that we come back on August 17th.
Boy, I think that's great, giving you guys, well, giving all of us a month. I know that I've had both my shots now 8 weeks. I think I was I was lucky enough to get them early. And so I'm very, very comfortable. I mean, I still wear a mask in Publix as a courtesy, to show everyone my commitment, but I've got no qualms. Even when the CAC meets with the 6 foot or whatever, 12 foot, I'm not worried about any of that stuff anymore. So yeah, by August, I think certainly for myself, it's going to feel like back to normal. Would anyone else like to comment? I don't mean to steal the thunder. So,
well, I think it'll be wonderful because, one of the reasons I had to leave TRAC the first time was because of being employed. I still ride the bus, even though I work, but I work during the hours of the TRAC meeting. I mean, I'm working right now, but I can double dip via Zoom call. So I think it's wonderful that you can keep this on as a viable option for those of us who can't get there.
Thank you. That was our hope.
Yeah, Mark, that's really a good point. We should be able to get the professional filled easier because they could sneak off into a conference room at work, and it'd be pretty easy to talk your boss into the fact that, look, I'm doing a public service. Can you give me an hour to go down the hall rather than I got to leave work at 3? Yeah, that's really, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, that would make it a lot easier for me.
Yeah. Thanks, Chelsea. I get it. I had not thought of that. Any other comments?
What's the minimum number for the quorum in person again?
Who said that?
Jason.
Oh,
what's the minimum number for the quorum in person again?
We need one more than half. So with 16 active, this is Mary Ann, with 16 active TRAC members right now, we would need 9 in attendance, and the rest could be virtual.
Okay.
By the way, I don't know how this works, but as far as quorum is concerned, I know like the LCB, they modified their bylaws to make their quorum a little smaller so that they could do it that way, so that they could have it as a hybrid meeting. So I don't know if that's possible for us, but also, that's another option, I think.
That's interesting. I'd like to look into that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Maybe Rob, I cannot say Rob Feigl, could talk to Bob Lasher about that to get the exact details of that. I didn't realize that. I know we take a quorum vote of the folks that are local to permit the folks that are remote to vote each month, which is kind of a cute Robert's Rules of Order kind of thing, and it works great.
I'm all for a
Since we can
favor
approve
of
the
a
minutes.
quorum of one.
Yeah. All right. That sounds great, Bob. Any other questions or thoughts? Then we will see everybody, or at least the half of us in August, but July will be just like this. Wait a minute. It's May. So June and July will be like this. And then August will be at least mostly like it used to be. I long to have it like it used to be. I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait. Okay. Then if that's it, then let's move on to the end. We'll wrap this up. Member comments. Does anybody have general comments about anything going on transit-wise? No baby.
Mark, did you want to give any comments about the meeting this morning?
Yeah, Mark.
Yes. So the meeting was very informative, especially for someone who.
Wait. Which meeting? Tell everyone which meeting you're at.
This was the Sunrunner Urban Development Planning meeting. If you weren't able to attend it, you can attend tomorrow's session. I believe it starts at 5 or 5:30.
5.
And it'll go for an hour and a half. Very informative. They're really trying to get the community input and buy-in to making sure that the Sunrunner is for all of us. So as somebody who lives on the Sunrunner line and within just a few blocks of the station, it really is going to affect me and affect development in the Kenwood part of St. Pete and coming all the way out from downtown. I can slowly but surely see progress moving west. As I look out the window, I can see it coming closer to me. And there was some very good stakeholders on the call too. So it wasn't just city people. It wasn't just PSTA people. There were people who really use it. There was somebody I met from my apartment building in there. I was like, oh. The only thing that concerned me was in my breakout room, there was somebody in there from the western end of the Sunrunner route. And he was talking about how, at that end, Central Avenue, it's a little bit more vacant and has more open space. And he would like to see more infill and take over these vacant and abandoned and other stuff of buildings. And then he said this. And I think Kenwood needs to accept that they're going to have high rises. That didn't go over too well because, Kenwood has historic designation in its blocks that, those homes can't be touched with like a 10-foot pole. To think, I know that I'm hoping he was focusing on the First Avenue North corridor that borders Kenwood and not the whole thing. But, yeah, it was interesting to get somebody else.
He was just mistaken, Mark. He was just mistaken.
I think so. I was very interested to hear somebody else's perspective who moved here and was like, well, it's going to happen. I was like, well, okay. Because he was, this gentleman was trying to say that we need to incorporate the stations and what they can development around the stations all the way from Central Avenue to Fifth Avenue North.
And that was the purpose of this meeting. We've had meetings about Sunrunner. What is Sunrunner? What's the transit? How are the tickets going to work? We've had a lot of meetings on the actual transit piece of it. This is more of a forward Pinellas piece. How will the land around Sunrunner be developed for housing, for retail, economic growth, jobs? So that's really, really cool. That's the part we don't normally get invited to. So it's kind of cool to be talking about, where the rubber, oh no, did I say that? Where the rubber meets the road? All right.
And it was so awesome to be involved in that part of the process because that's really that's some interest that I had personally.
Yep. And so we all got an email and there were the 2 meetings. The one is over, the other's tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just don't want anybody to think that I had a bad impression of it. It was a very good meeting. It's like there's always that one thing from a meeting that stands out in your mind. Sure. And the gentleman saying that about Kenwood was like, oh, you don't know what you're going up against.
Well, there's plenty of Central Avenue that's going to go high density if this thing works, just not that particular piece. That's like saying we need to tear down the White House and put in some high density living,
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Anyone else? Any other comments or news? Gloria?
No, just 2 things. First of all, Mark, if you really like that stuff, you ought to look at Forward Pinellas too, because that's land use.
planning. That's exactly what we talk about.
But again, yeah, my comment is just, this goes back to Bonnie and to the people with the whole new PSTA access. Good luck to PSTA with the change to access. This is going to be such an exciting 2 months. I can't wait to have this all happen. I'm very, very proud of all of what you've done, and I'm very excited about it. So thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you so much. We're excited too. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of changes happening, but I think it'll be for the best, and the service will be, even better than what we had before. So it'll be great.
All right. I have a question. I don't know who to talk to. I think maybe it's Bob, and we'll do it offline. That now that I'm using a lot of service down here in Gulfport, first off, it's great to have 3 lines within a couple blocks. And I have found that I am a pedestrian, a lot of walking, and it's dangerous, and you need to be careful, and you plan which blocks have sidewalks and which ones don't. And also I've been running to buses because now I'm learning how to time your buses. But there was a place where the bus stop is just in the wrong place. And I'm going to say it's like a mall. It doesn't matter where it is, but they're dropping you off literally in a bush that the owner of this, let's call it a mall, put bushes sort of like to hide. And I thought, if someone was in a wheelchair, what's going to happen? And here, 3 lots down is cement access, blah, blah, blah. Do we talk to the owner first of the mall, their landscapers? Do we talk to PSTA? Is it just go without saying, if they offered to move it, we would move it? I mean, I think it's for us just moving the sign, right?
Yeah, let us take a look at it, because if it may be easier for us just to move it a block or so, and we'll handle it from that way, because it's usually.
Well, you may just have access just to move it.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Which will be easier than if we have to ask the owner.
There's some questions because the easy place is a little too close probably to the corner, but this or that. But anyway, I think we put it there, in the 60s, and these guys, maybe 5 years ago put palm trees. Like, we don't want to be looking at a bus stop. And I got off and thought, I can get around this, but there's a lot of people who would be taking transit that can't use snots. Anyway, all right. So I'll talk to you, Bob, offline.
And that's exactly what TRAC is all about. Thank you.
Exactly. All of us have our own experiences. Gloria.
I'm sorry, I got one more thing when you were talking about this. This is, keep your fingers crossed. I have been fighting for the longest time for there to be safe access to Countryside Mall. Mm-hmm. And we have all kinds of bus stops there, and we have, as it is, 0 pedestrian access to Whole Foods. Well, last week, I finally met with the manager of Countryside Mall. There's new management because Westfield went under. And yes, I know. It still may not happen right away. But then the other thing I did, which I found out from St. Pete, ADA coordinator taught me, I filed a complaint with the Human Rights Commission of Pinellas County, also saying there is no access for a pedestrian to get to the store. And that is actually in violation of ADA. So hopefully,
we better be careful. They may just shut the bus hub down.
They can't. No, and it wouldn't matter because I'm still a pedestrian and I live near there.
That's right.
So whether there's a bus or not. So just wanted to let you all know that hopefully keep your fingers crossed.
That's very positive.
That's wonderful, Gloria. You have been, what is it? Indefatigable. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Indefatigable, yeah. I know.
Yeah. Persistent. Real persistent.
That's great. All right. Are there other comments for other members? Have something they want to add about transit or what we've been working on? Or if not,
question maybe much earlier we were talking about the Gandhi expansion or whatever. Was there mention of transit on the bridge? Because that would be nice.
As the buses, as I understand it, are going to just run into Carly's. This thing is way out. I mean, it's like what, 6 years, 4 years? They're at just the environmental study. I mean, it's real. It's real.
Because I know PSTA on its own has expanded access to Hillsborough, but it's still You know, especially on the weekend, it's impossible by bus to get to Tampa on the weekend.
Right.
And even during the work week, you know, it's geared towards, you know, people who work a regular 9 to 5 and not, you know, other types of hours. So it's like, I just would love, this when T-Water was founded however many years ago, 10, 15 years ago, that was my goal, hope that they actually integrate some kind of way, having more inter-county connection.
Right. That's the whole T-BARTA objective and all of that. But I still think there was no bus line, no bus lane, obviously there's no driving on shoulder on the Gandy. There's not going to be big enough shoulder. I think Gloria, do you remember anything?
Well, on the Gandy thing, they did say that transit is part of the whole planning process. And I know that the people from Forward Pinellas are very favorable toward PSTA and working with PSTA. And so they do understand that, but is that going to fix it? I don't know, but thank you for asking. And that's a very good thing to keep reminding them. And I think Duncan and I and several other people on the CAC always talk transit. So they're hearing it a lot from us at Forward Pinellas.
I mean, they created a seat for us specifically to make sure TRAC had a seat on CAC. And so that, you know, it's not like they don't say, yeah, we're tired of hearing from you. They invited us to come sit on it. But on the other hand, it's an FDOT project. So. Yeah.
Yes, and that was my concern because I don't know. I don't trust FDOT with transit because I'm just saying.
Yeah, in the end. Anyone else? Any other comments? I've got a couple pieces of new business. Thank you, Marianne. We're invited to see the AVA launch tomorrow up at the AVA, which has been running along the St. Pete waterfront from the Dali, and there's now going to be one up in Dunedin also as an experiment. So we're allowed to all come up there to do the big ribbon cutting with the giant oversized scissors, right? They're going to do one.
Where is that actually taking place in Dunedin?
Who can help me?
It's off right off Main Street. It'll be at 3:00.
Where off of Main Street?
I think of Main Street in Douglas, right?
Main Street in Douglas.
Okay, perfect.
Optics.
Okay.
Yes, and there's
Parking lot
Facebook
there.
Live.
Yeah.
And there's Facebook Live in case you don't want to go there, but you just want to see it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, because I can't make it. So Gloria, if you can, that'd be great.
I will be there. I already planned 78 right into Dunedin.
Great. And then the bus on shoulder launch June 4th. So that's in 2 weeks. And what is that? A ribbon cutting or probably a Zoom launch or? So
good question. I don't know what the fancy marketing department has for that extravaganza. Some kind of Zooming thing, right? I don't know.
Yep. All right. So we've gotten emails on all of that. So those of you who want to attend and represent us to those, I know I'm tied up. I won't be able to make it. So come on back and let us know how it went. If not, is there any other business? If not, we'll see you in a month once again by Zoom. God, it's good to see all you guys and to get all these updates. We'll see you then. Meeting adjourned. See you June 15th for our next TRAC meeting. Bob, I'll talk to you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Great job, Chair Govar.